Hello, and welcome to Spicy Toast Gaming. Thank you for tuning in to our Illaoi guide for Path of Champions. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and let's get into it. First, we'll be going over an overview of the champion, just so that you can know if this is a champion you want to invest your time and shards into. So we'll cover some of their basic strengths and weaknesses and general playstyle. First, we have Spawn. So this is the keyword that the Illaoi deck is based on. What it is certain effects trigger Spawn, and what that does is it will make a 1-cost 1/1 tentacle. That's a unit. If you already have a tentacle, then it will buff it by 1/1. So you have this unit on the board that you're trying to continually buff throughout the game, and you're using that to destroy the enemy nexus. So next we have balanced playstyle. So Illaoi is actually a very well constructed deck. It has a good amount of spells and units, and you're not really focusing just on one. Quite a lot of the decks in Path of Champions are more focused on your spells or your units. Illaoi actually is very balanced, and so because of that, there's a lot of different ways you can build it throughout a match, either focusing more on your spells or focusing more on your units. You can go many different directions with her. Alright, next we have removal. So she has some pretty good removal spells as part of her kit, and she also is able to trigger vulnerable on enemies, and so you can essentially challenge them with whatever unit you want, and so she's very good at taking care of enemy threats on the board. Next we have built-in draw. So again, more of her cards and spells are able to draw you more cards, and so you're never really running out of cards with Illaoi, and it feels very good to have that just automatically in your kit. That's often something people try to build towards as they're in game, that and sustain, but draw is something you don't really have to worry about when you're playing Illaoi. Alright, next we have easily countered. Now, thankfully the bot isn't really smart enough to intentionally counter you, but they will do it sometimes essentially by accident. So since your whole game plan is built around this tentacle with the spawn mechanic, if they take that out, or if they frostbite it, stun it, just use a kill spell. Essentially what you've been building the entire game has just been reset. And that can be very frustrating. It's not easy to get like spell shield or something to protect it, and so you can be quite easily countered in some matches, which is frustrating. Alright, lastly we have mid-game power spike. So Illaoi, she comes on the board at 4 mana, and so normally when you play her, you're able to win your next attack. And so you have a very early game, mid-game power spike. You're not as fast as someone like a Diana, Teemo, Jax. But yeah, once you hit that 4 mana and play Illaoi, quite often you're going to be ending the game right there. So because of that, very strong power spike and something you can have fun playing with Illaoi. Alright, so that was a general overview. Let's go hop in game and further explain what I touched on here in this overview. In game now with Illaoi, you see we have her at level 23 and 3 stars. So she is a 4-cost champion and starts out as a 1/6. She has Overwhelm and then attack, spawn 1, and then I gain power equal to your strongest tentacle's power this round. So that is when she attacks. Now her level up is I've seen tentacles or I deal 15 damage. So this I've seen, that means she has to be on the board to actually level up. When she levels up, now when you spawn, increase its value by 1, and then attack, spawn 1, then fully heal your strongest tentacle, and I in the tentacle stats equal its stats this round. So what happens is Illaoi heals the tentacle, then she grows to the size of that tentacle. So however big it is, she goes to as well, and then they're both able to attack and deal massive damage. She also, with that Overwhelm, it's very good for using those stats to be able to punch through and destroy the Nexus. Her spell, 4 cost slow, Tentacle Smash, spawn 2, and then your strongest tentacle and an enemy strike each other. And since this is the champion version, it creates an Illaoi in your deck. And this is the tentacle, so whenever you're spawning, you're making one of these, or you're increasing the size of it if you already have one on the board. The star powers, so Prophet of an Elder God, when allies attack, spawn 3. The rank 1 version is spawn 1. So you're wanting to be attacking every single round as many times as you can, so you're always triggering this spawn 3 effect. So the 2-star, Test of Spirit, +1 starting mana, round start, grant the weakest enemy vulnerable. So she has really good removal, she has those spells, but then also the weakest enemy every single round is going to get that vulnerable, so when you attack you can take them off the board. If we take a look at her starting deck, Watchful Idol, so a nice 1-drop, round start deal 2 to me and I spawn 1, so constantly being able to give you more tentacles every single round. This gets a Giant's Belt, and later it also gets a Chain Vest. Answered Prayer, another slow spell, and then spawn 2, or spend 5 mana to spawn 4 instead. With that Hero's Horns, you get more draw. That will always draw your champion, but still more ways to consistently get cards. We got Grumble Slug, 3/4 with the studded leather and a tune. Another nice early game unit for you to be able to play. We have the Eye of Nagake Boros, so spawn 2 and draw 2. So another spell giving you some draw, giving you more spawn. Very nice, especially with that Tear of the Goddess, making it a pretty cheap card. Journeying Sandhopper, so 3 cost 4/3 attune with quick attack. I normally don't really like playing this card. It's fine, but everything else really is focusing on spawning. This I would normally cut. There's other 3-drops I'd rather play, or even just lower cards. We have the Sea's Voice, another 3-drop. Attack, spawn 1, and give your strongest tentacle Overwhelm this round. That can be very nice for actually letting your Overwhelm or your tentacle use all of its stats instead of just getting blocked out. And then it gets a Shadow Totem so that you can get another ephemeral copy of this for more spawns and another attacking unit. And just feels much better to play this 3-drop instead of the Sandhopper, so that's why I normally would cut that. We have Illaoi at 4, Tentacle Smash at 4 as well. So this is Illaoi's spell, or Illaoi's spell is the same as this. So it has that Hex Tech Fabricator, nice, but then another slow speed spell just giving you a bit more removal and spawn. We have the Buru Lookout. Now, this one, it's a fine card. When I'm summoned to spawn 3, it has a decent stat line. The issue is it's a bit expensive. Normally, you're trying to win on the turn Illaoi's played, and so a 5-cost card is just normally a bit too much to really deal with. So it's another card from her starting lineup that I would quite often cut as long as I'm doing okay and consistently winning before I could even play it. Overall, though, a good deck, pretty well made. No real issues that you can really complain about. You don't have necessarily a combat trick. Now, the eye can work like that. If someone's trying to kill your tentacle, you can pop this to get a bit more stats on it, and then that can help you out. But in general, there's not really a gaping weakness that you're feeling like in some other decks where you just feel like you don't have any options to play. If we take a look at relics now, so I like the Green Glade Shadeleaf, support, grant my supported ally elusive, and Crown Guard Inheritance when I level up Rally. So what you can do with this is you play Illaoi, your next attack. She gives your tentacle elusive, that way no one can block it, so all of its stats should be able to go through and hit the Nexus. Illaoi herself has the Overwhelm, and so she then grows in power compared to the tentacle. based on its stats, and then you attack. Most times you're then going to level up, which means you rally, you attack again, Illaoi gets all of those extra stats again, and you just finish off the game. So it's a pretty good combo that works out pretty well, makes you win most of the time at level 4, as long as nothing happens to your tentacle. Now, some other relics to keep in mind. So Corrupted Star Fragment, this can be good. It can eat your tentacle, give Illaoi all the stats, and then I would probably want to run Spell Shield with that. This is more to overcome your biggest weakness of something happening to Illaoi or the tentacle, because that's the way you win. So if that gets frostbitten or killed, it can really screw you over. So if you're trying to play it more safe, then you can go with Corrupted Star Fragment and a Spell Shield, just for that extra protection. I wouldn't really recommend the Corrupted Star Fragment, though, because since you're eating your tentacle, yes, Illaoi will get bigger, but then you have to start making a new tentacle. It's not as good as someone like Ornn, where every time he attacks, the thing he's spawning and then eating is just doubling his stats. With Illaoi, you're resetting that down to 0 if you eat the tentacle. So it can work out fine, but I think Shadeleaf is better in most situations, because then you're not actually killing it and having to restart your ramp. One thing also to note with Shadeleaf, this is grant my supported ally elusive, so this is permanent. So if for some reason you don't win the round that you attack, the next round that you attack, don't support your tentacle again if it still has elusive. Give your elusive to a different unit, because otherwise you're not really doing anything for your tentacle. Supporting it's not actually helping it at all if it already has the elusive on it. So if you're attacking multiple times, be supporting a different unit each time to spread out your elusives. Now you can run Gale Force on Illaoi. I feel like it's just a worse Crown Guard Inheritance for her. So with Crown Guard Inheritance, you can attack with your full board, including your tentacle, and you'll be then leveling up and attacking again. And since you're ending the game with that attack, you don't need any future attacks. So you only need the one rally. So with Gale Force being able to attack multiple times every round, it's not really beneficial for you, and it feels just worse in my opinion. Now, if you don't have a Crown Guard and have a Gale Force, then it probably will work out great. I just think for Illaoi, Gale Force is just a worse inheritance, in my opinion. One thing that could be somewhat humorous is take a Hymn of Valor and then throw that on your tentacle. Then your tentacle doubles in size. Illaoi gets all of those stats as well. So probably not quite as efficient as some of the other relics we've talked about, but I do think it could be quite fun to play with. The Grand General's counter plan. So with Illaoi, you're normally winning on the round she attacks. But if you think your game's going to go a bit longer, if you don't have her at 3 stars yet, and you notice your games just aren't ending as fast, then the counter plan can be pretty good. So it's going to make that tentacle smash every round. So that just lets you grow your tentacle and remove an enemy threat essentially every single round. So that could be very good. If you're running with this, then you might also want to go with Archangels. So again, normally it's not worth having since you're not getting the benefit of it, since Illaoi's ending the same turn she's played. But if your games aren't ending that quickly, then Archangels could be decent, so you can play all of your spells if you're having games that go longer. Alright, so for common relics, Spell Shield is actually fairly nice on Illaoi, especially if you're going with the Corrupted Star Fragment, just for that extra protection. She and the Tentacle is the win condition, so if something happens to them, it can really mess you up. So just protecting them with Spell Shield can be very good. Lost Chapter, not bad. You do have a lot of spells, so being able to play that's pretty good. Stormraiser or Challenger can be nice. It's not as needed since you do have that vulnerable that's happening every round with your star powers. But Illaoi can take a good amount of damage when she's attacking. So just the extra quick attack or Challenger to help protect her, make sure she's picking the right fights, can be decent. If you're taking a lot of damage in your matches, Star Child Staff, not bad. If you're having problems drawing Illaoi, you're not level 20 yet, the Chameleon's Necklace can be pretty good, putting some extra copies in there so you know you draw her by the time you need her. One last rare relic to touch on is the Berserker's Buckle. So Illaoi, she does often take damage when she is attacking, and so the Berserker Buckle, just to increase her stats every time that happens, can be quite good. And then if you have to block with her, again, she has a pretty big stat line, so being able to take a hit or two and then get more stats can be quite nice. Alright, so that's it for the relics I wanted to touch on, as well as just the in-game portion. Let's now go look at what powers I think would work well with Illaoi, and what support champions you might want to get if you're playing as her. So to start off with powers, we have Endurance. When an ally survives damage, grant it 1/1. So quite often in the early game, you're going to be attacking and blocking with your tentacle, and every time it's going to be taking damage because it doesn't have any keywords. So just being able to increase its stats can be very nice, both for its survivability, but then for when Illaoi comes onto the board and buffs it up. Battlefield Training. Round start, grant the weakest ally 1/1. Again, very nice for your tentacle or anyone else that gets those stats. Fixer Upper. Round start, give your weakest ally 3/3 this round. Now this is a temporary buff, but it's very nice to increase the survivability of your units when you're either attacking or blocking. Since you're an early game deck, or you're trying to win at this mid-game power spike, you want to have all your units survive on the board and to be able to safely kill the enemy units. Since you're getting vulnerable on the weakest or enemy each round, you normally can pick your fights quite well and be consistently taking out enemy threats. On to the next group of powers here. So the best defense. Allies have attack, grow my health to match my power. Very nice for Illaoi, as her and the tentacle normally are going to have very large attack pools, and that way you're giving them also a massive amount of survivability. Also helps your units be able to attack multiple times and not get slowly whittled down. Very good to have. Domination, round start, rally. So with your star powers, every time you attack, you're spawning 3, so you want to be attacking as many times as possible. So rally is very good for that, as well as just keeping up the pressure and ending games very quickly. Vanguard Lookout, game start, summon 2 Vanguard Lookouts. Now really any of the powers that summon units are good for Illaoi. You always want to have a unit on board to attack in the very first turn. You never want to have a situation where you have bad luck and you don't get any of your 1 or 2 cost units and you miss out on an attack. You always want to be attacking, spawning 3, and so always having a unit on the board to be able to do that is very important. So Vanguard Lookout is probably the best for Illaoi, but any of the powers that give you a unit on the board at game start can be quite nice. Last group of powers we're going to touch on here. So we have Spellslinger, your spells cost 1 less. Sorcery here on the other side, round start, refill your spell mana. And Slow But Steady, when you play a slow spell, copy it onto the same targets. So obviously these all have to deal with your spells and being able to play them more freely. Illaoi has many different spells. I think she has 3 spells, which is more than most decks. So reducing their cost and having the spell mana every round can be very nice. And then Slow But Steady is actually quite important. Most of Illaoi's spells are actually slow, so being able to get those doubling up could be quite nice. The spells that are slow also are spawn, so they can dramatically increase your scaling process. So if you see any of these, especially slow but steady in game for Illaoi, definitely try them out. They work quite well. All right, let's go take a look at support champions for Illaoi. Support champions. So as always, we don't want to just give you a list of champions for you to pick up. We want you to know why certain champions are good and what you should be looking for in your support champions. So first we have extra attacks. So this is either rally, free attacks, scout attacks, it doesn't matter. Whatever cards you can get that are going to be giving you free attacks, even if it's just from the item that when you summon the unit, give it a free attack. Any of those are going to be helpful. Your main star power is every time you attack, you spawn 3. So you want to be attacking as many times as possible, keeping the pressure on, destroying the enemy, and growing up your tentacle. So any champions you see that can do that is very nice to have. Next we have early power. So you're already a fairly early game deck with that strong mid-game power spike. Illaoi doesn't really have any large weaknesses that need to be mitigated for. Compared to most other decks, it's not like she lacks draw, not like she lacks removal or any of these problems that most other decks have. So you really just want to focus on further enhancing your early game power and winning as fast as possible. So some of the champions that are grabbed for Illaoi. First we have Quinn, getting those scout attacks with your units. Consistently spawning more can be quite helpful. And then for early game power, Lucian is very good. If you get him leveled up, he can then rally, giving you the extra attacks as well. And so these are just some things you might want to consider with your support champions with Illaoi. Alright, that's it for the support champions and the Illaoi guide. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching that video. We're putting out daily content for Path of Champions, so if that interests you, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and comment down below. We're just starting out here on YouTube, trying to grow the channel, so any help is greatly appreciated. Thank you, and have a great day.